And tonight, as you've noticed, we are having a virtual format for tonight's meeting. And Cindy Grimes has volunteered to be our community co-host for tonight's meeting. We appreciate that, Cindy. And if the participants want to record the meeting, they can press the record icon and request permission in the chat, to general chat or direct message to co-host Cindy for that particular feature. Our next meeting will be a live meeting December 13th, and it's a non-business holiday celebration, and it'll be in hybrid meeting form. So we will have both Zoom and in person. Physical location for our next meeting will be the Women's Club, which is on Aguadosa Canyon Road. So at this moment, I would like to move right on to our agency reports. And the first item up is Deputy Martinez. If you have something to report, we'd appreciate it.
Hey guys, so for the month of October, it was actually a pretty good month for us. 0 Part 1 crimes, which brings our grand total to 6 for the year, and we had 3 property crimes, which brings our total to 47 for the year. We had 13 miscellaneous reports taken, those like missing persons, that kind of thing. When someone dies of natural causes, that kind of thing, non-criminal stuff. For now that the time change is going on, I just want to remind everybody to adjust their timers and stuff, make sure those porch lights are on at the appropriate time. It's a big deterrent for burglars and stuff. Don't make yourself a soft target. I know a lot of guys don't want to spend the money on it, but my mom's one of them, always making sure that the lights are off and stuff. I'm like, well, you need to have that porch lit up like the 4th of July, because it's a big time deterrent. They don't want to get caught, and don't make yourself an easy target. Do you guys have anything for me?
No, I think we're looking pretty good. Anybody have any questions for Orlando?
Yes.
Yes, Deputy Martinez.
Uh-huh.
This is Candy. I have friends that live on off of Darling, and they are behind 33206 Barber Road, which is vacant. But yes, the party house.
Yeah.
I thought that it is vacant when there's no party people there. I thought that the house had to be occupied a certain amount of time of the year, but
so
there's parties going on there.
The short-term rental ordinance, I don't think it's fully gone into effect yet. They had it as far as the act and meeting. They kind of brushed over it. I've told everybody, continue calling on it and stuff like that. The units know. I briefed everyone this last week, because you guys aren't the only ones. There's 3 in Aguadosa and 4 in Acton right now that are they're not actually renting them through Airbnb, because we've checked. These are being rented out through some other website we're not aware of, or Snapchat or Instagram. So they're not actually being rented through those sites, because they don't appear on any of those sites. So whoever they're doing it, we're not able to monitor it, kind of thing. So we don't know when it's coming. But the units were all briefed this week on any of them they show up if they're not able to, because they weren't able to get in contact with anyone. These are fenced properties. We can't just hop the fence to go contact somebody, but to articulate that they're seeing that it's hey, is there security? Is there valet? Does it look like they're charging? Is there kind of some sort of infrastructure in it? Or is it someone having a Sweet 16 or something like that? So So they all have been briefed on it. Zoning and regional planning are using our call clearances to articulate any kind of inspection that they might do off of it, because they're not on 24/7. But a lot of it is just documentation at this point. So you guys need to call, and the call volume. I got emails about it. I know the Board of Supervisors got calls about some of them, but they're not calling the station, and you guys need to call the station when it's happening too. Because me getting an email on Monday morning, I can't go back and see what was going on at that time. I can't get it on body cam. I can't, do all that. So you have to call the station. I mean, there's no other way around it to kind of get it going. So yeah, that's it. But yeah, we're aware of them. It's just, got to call it in.
Okay.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think Chris had a question.
Yeah, there's a significant increase in auto thefts. Is this just generally around the community, or are there some hot spots?
Are you talking about that 1 month that we had 19?
Yeah, that was.
So that was the storage yards when all 3 got hit, and that guy's in custody.
Okay.
Were
those vehicles recovered in the end, or?
Some were, some weren't.
Okay.
But it was all 3. It was all the storage yards were getting hit, and they were taking like 8 a night. And people didn't know that they were getting taken because when you drop off your RV, you don't necessarily go check on it, for a few months or. So like we put that together, but we were able to get good footage of the guy. I actually just went to court on it. So he's remanded. He's in custody. He did the same things in Lancaster, and that was the only month that we had a big uptick on auto thefts. Was it September or right? Was it September or July?
Yeah.
So
it was significant.
It was 19. Yeah, but it was all one guy or a group of guys working in together, but it was like a continuous incident. It wasn't like all of a sudden, like it's just all over the place. It was the storage yards were getting hit. That's it. But it's going to fall on our crime stats.
Okay, thank you.
All right, great. Anybody else? Perfect. All right, thank you, Officer Deputy Martinez. We appreciate the report and you attending our meeting here tonight.
Yep, I'll stick around.
All right, next up we have California Highway Patrol, Officer Glauser, if you're here, or Officer Delgado.
It's going to be Delgado tonight. Can you guys hear me?
Good, great, perfect.
All right. So for the month of October, as far as citation-wise, they had 6 citations on Sand Canyon, 47 citations on Sierra Highway, 1 citation on Agua Dulce Road, and no citations on Bouquet, and a total of 137 citations on the 14 freeway, the portion of the freeway that runs between Sand Canyon and Ward Road. As far as arrests, there was 1 DUI arrest on Agua Dulce Canyon Road last month. A total of 3 arrests on Sierra Highway, one of them being a misdemeanor DUI arrest, and a total of 19 arrests on that same portion of the 14 freeway. As far as crashes, looks like we have 1 property damage crash on Sierra Highway, 2 injury crashes on Sierra Highway, and a misdemeanor hit and run crash on Sierra Highway. Trying to see, Bouquet Canyon had 2 injury crashes and a misdemeanor hit and run crash, and Soledad Canyon had, I guess there was a fatal crash on, looks like Soledad Canyon and Indian Canyon Road last month. And that's all I have as far as the stats for last month.
Okay, perfect. Does anybody have any questions for Officer Delgado? If not, we sure appreciate you coming to our meeting tonight, giving us that report. And if it comes up, we'll definitely get a hold of you.
Yeah, just reach out.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem, sir.
Next up, we have Los Angeles County Fire Department Community Service Representative Maria Drycan. Maria, are you here tonight?
I am.
All right.
How is everybody doing?
Great.
Okay, for the month, and Mary, I apologize. I just realized I never emailed this to you. So I apologize, and I will send that to you for your records tomorrow. For the month of October, 36 total responses. 24 of them were medical calls, 1 service call, 7 good intent calls, and we did have 4 fires. 3 of those were vehicle fires. 1 on the freeway, south of Agua Dulce Canyon Road, 1 on Domino Hill Road, and 1 on Agua Dulce Canyon Road. And then we had a structure fire on October 27th on Anthony Road. It was an abandoned single-story, single-family dwelling, and the incident was turned over to the Sheriff's Arson Investigation Unit. But it did cause about $570,000 worth of damage, property damage.
Wow.
And that's all I've got, except, that's not all I've got, I'm sorry. We are in the midst of the Agua Dulce CERT class. So we had a class last night. And we have 3 more classes to go. And it's going really well. We've got 22 students in the class, and it's a really good group of people. Catherine is also in the class, so Catherine can mention that as well. And I wanted to put out to the community, and Mary, I can email you a little blurb if you guys can throw it up on Facebook or something for the community. On December 5th, that is going to be the final CERT class. Tuesday night, December 5th, and we do our final drill simulation. It'll be between 6 and 9 p.m. And I am looking for community volunteers for that particular class to come and be victims that our CERT students will rescue. There's no age limit, except, they should be with parents if they're minors, and I don't want babies, but, as long as somebody can follow directions or follow instructions and kind of be on their own a little bit. But yeah, I would love to get some community volunteers, maybe expose some more people to this training. Maybe it'll get them interested and want to take it. I'll take as many volunteers as I can get. The class is also going to try to bring some of their friends and family, but I can use however many people show up at the Women's Club that night, because I can make them victims, I can make them spontaneous volunteers, I can do all sorts of things with them.
Okay, great, fantastic. So they should just contact you directly if they're available?
They don't even have to contact me. Just show up on December 5th at 6 o'clock at the Women's Club.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that report. Anybody have any questions for Maria?
Maria, I'll get that out on the local social media for you.
Okay. Did you want me to email you a little blurb for it, or you think you got enough to?
If you could put something together, that would be awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that for you.
Great.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Awesome.
And this is Catherine. It's a great course. It's wonderful. I love it. And I have one volunteer who's listening now, I think.
Okay. Awesome.
So,
I'm glad to hear that. Glad everything's going good. And I'm glad we had a good turnout, too. All right. So next up, we have the Acton Agua Dulce Library Report from librarian Jim Wall. Jim?
Good evening. Hope you're all doing well.
Yes.
I'm just going to start out first. I want to let you know we are in the midst of our In-N-Out Burger reading program for kids. So kids come by, they pick up a card. Every 5 books they read, they get a coupon for a free burger from In-N-Out. They can do that up to 3 times. They've added another component to that where you can either read the 5 books or it's timed. So there's a certain time limit. Every X number of minutes they can get the free burger instead. So that's going on. Come on in, sign up for that at the front desk. Programs, all of our programs are online, lacountylibrary.org. Click events and just click Acton Agua Dulce Library. The next big one we've got going up is December 2nd at noon. It's a Saturday. We're going to have our Ginger Bus program. So get signed up in advance for that. I'm sure all the spots are going to fill up because it always does. Other than that, I'm just going to mention the holidays. We will be closed Friday, Saturday this week for Veterans Day. And then we will be closed the Thursday and Friday of Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So unless you guys got any questions for me, that's all I've got.
Anybody have any questions for Jim? All right. Great.
Thank you.
Jim. Appreciate it. Okay. So now we have the 5th District Report from Stephanie English. Stephanie?
Hey, good evening, everybody. Sorry for the delay there. I think I hopefully we have some county staff on to discuss the issues that you noted on the agenda. So do you see them on, Dawn, do you see any county? Oh, there we go. Oh, no, that's Chris. Chris, you're not county staff, but I love you.
Yeah.
Got his hand up.
Stephanie, we have the report back from LA County staff regarding the illegal commercial trucking business at 13025 Sierra Highway in Sleepy Valley. Is anybody here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good
Oh,
evening,
yes,
everybody.
thank you.
Okay.
Hi, this is Yosh Morsak from Building Safety, LA County Building Safety. We did get a report from a neighbor, Nancy, Tomei, I believe her last name's pronounced, regarding some activities at that location. She witnessed some dump trucks going in and out of that property. I believe it on Monday of this week. We sent our inspector from Building and Safety out to talk to Nancy to find out, take her statement essentially. And she also provided some timestamp photos of the trucks going in and out of that location. Department Regional Planning Inspector Mir Bashir also reported, went to Nancy's location and also conducted an interview. So we have joint statements from both departments. We've both departments reported back to County Council and the DA's office to let them know of the happenings on the location. County Council returned, provided a comment back, letting us know that they'll be seeking orders from the court in the pending civil lawsuit that's going on against the property owners there. They don't have a timeline as of yet. I believe they mentioned December, but they don't have an exact court date at the moment. But the reporting does help us inform a county council and the district attorney of what's going on. So we'd like to thank Nancy for reporting that and providing information to us as soon as possible. And that goes for other people in the community too. If they also notice anything going on at GV Trucking, please let us know. You can contact me or just send a general email to our inspectors and we'll respond as soon as possible. Any questions on GV Trucking?
Is that something that they could submit through the Works app, or would it be better to use your email, one of the emails?
In this case, I think it'd be best to use my email.
Okay.
And that way we'll have a better, quicker response. Sometimes the Works app, it works really well, but sometimes it goes to different people depending on how the complaint is written. If you send it to me directly, I've been on top of this case for quite a while, so
yeah.
If you send it to me, I'm the point of contact for this one.
Perfect.
So.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
It looks like Chris has a question up there. Chris?
Yes.
Yeah, I my hand is raised because I have a question of Stephanie when we get through this process. But Yosh, thank you very much for staying on top of this. It's much appreciated. I've actually been out of town for 3 weeks, and I just drove by the site today, and something caught my attention, and it looks like they may have felled a tree, or there's what looks like wood on the tree wood on the property site. So I don't know whether they've taken a hack at one of their oak trees, but I'll take another look at that and see if that is the case, and I'll report it back to you if it is.
Great. Any pictures that you have, as long as you have a timestamp on it, that really helps the case as well. Any work being done on that property.
Yeah, we'll do that. Thank you.
Great.
Anybody else have any questions regarding the commercial trucking? If not, we will move over to the report back from the staff regarding Sleepy Valley Water Company and failed adjacent.
Friday, November 17th from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, and it will be held at Animal Tracks Sanctuary in Agua Dulce, and after the workshop, that'll include a tour of the sanctuary. It's really kind of geared for adults, but if family members want to come along, probably not a big problem. And a big thank you, Mary, for getting information about this on the local social media. And I can drop in the link in the chat. And, I'll just also say, Tree People through the Water Talks program, several weeks ago, a couple of months ago, we did hold a information workshop on SB 552. And I know that's been sitting on this agenda for quite a while. And, the basic message was that there's not an effect for private domestic well owners. Really, you have to have like 15 connections to a well before this SB 552 starts kicking in. And so, if there were that many, entities all tied into one domestic well, then yeah, there might be concerns. But if anybody has specific concerns, again, you can reach out to me. We can put you in touch with folks at with the State Water Board staff or the Department of Water Resources to dig into the question. The language is confusing in SB 552, and frankly, DWR is still sorting through it to make it all, to figure out how it's all. So it's not surprising it'd be confusing. So anyhow, as watershed coordinators, we can try to be a resource to connect on that as well.
Great.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you, Peter. Anybody have any questions for Peter? If not, thank you for the report, Peter. We appreciate you showing up tonight.
Good, Jim.
Okay. All right, next up we have presentation and discussions. And the first presentation has to do with the RTG Investments Agua Dulce Residential Project. Hi, Chris, if you have anything to report for tonight, Chris.
I do. I haven't got a presentation. I've been somewhat otherwise engaged over the last 2 or 3 weeks, but I have been reading a few bits and pieces. Just going back to one of the action items from last month's meeting, we went back to the residents adjacent to the project and said, look, this potential clearing of this piece of land is not something the council is going to take up for you, but feel free to ask the county yourselves what's going on. And they did, and the county came back and said that the land clearing that was going on was actually happening on an adjacent piece of property that was accessed through the RTG property. But it is not any issue that's related directly to RTG's property, which was great news.
Okay.
The more troubling thing that sort of dropped on the radar screen is a proposal that sits just on the other side of the border of this property on Valley Sage Road in Acton, that the Acton Town Council has just taken up with regional planning. And if I give you a bit of background, there's a 54-acre parcel just to the east of the RTG property that the people who work for RTG have claimed that they own. And one of the local residents actually went to the Lancaster tax office and looked at the property records to see exactly who owned it. And it's actually owned by a company that was formed in Wyoming in November of 2021. And that company is called Pacific Jazz Investments Incorporated. The company bought the piece of land in August of 2022, so just over a year ago, for $575,000. The Wyoming company has a California counterpart, which is registered in California as a foreign corporation. And that has a lady called Celine Ashadorian, I think, named as the manager or president of the company, and she appears to also be related to some banqueting and catering company out of Glendale. So not RTG, yet RTG's employees claim that they own that 54-acre parcel of property. That 54-acre parcel property has now a proposal in the offing to put a 250-bed nursing home on it, which would significantly increase the amount of traffic going up and down Valley Sage Road. And I think the Acton Town Council, I think, Mary, we may want to get Jackie and the Town Council in Acton to just share the correspondence they've sent to the county about this, because if you're going to forget the 300 homes that are permitted, but if you're just going to put 68 homes on Valley Sage Road and then you're going to build a 250-bed nursing home, that's going to be a hell of a problem if there's a fire, because Valley Sage Road just isn't geared up to get that number of people out of an emergency in a high fire hazard severity zone, and I think it doesn't stand the test of Title 21. So it's just something for us to be aware of. It shares a lot of similarities with RTG. One, they claim that they own it. Two, the company that owns it is based in Wyoming, just like RTG is, and it has a California counterpart. So it does seem to be, I think, as one resident described it, another part of the washing machine. So we'll keep an eye on this, but It obviously sits within the Antelope Valley as opposed to the Santa Clarita Valley. But Acton is concerned, about high fire hazard severity, access to the property, and also the prospect that even though there's a 21-inch water main running down the road there, that 21-inch water main can be fed by some of the wells in and around Acton through District 37. So they're curious to know what the impact would be on their water supply. So that's one thing I think we just need to be aware of. The other thing that I got just before the last meeting was a disclosure of several megabytes of documents from the county about the water main. And I've still got to complete my analysis of it, but I asked them for information about the water main that went past, Valley Sage Road to the edge of the project, which RTG has been responsible for installing. And I think the critical thing, we've already established that under California law, the bonds that were issued in 2002 were no longer enforceable by the county in case there was a problem. And what you see in this documentation is a lot of exchanges between Sycand Engineering. If you remember, they were the company that was the reason that Catherine Barger abstained from voting on the approval of the last open space recording last month, and the county staff about the bonds for the project. And you see the company that is responsible for putting the replacement bonds in place complaining about the economy, the interest rates, this, that, and the other, and the county basically saying, hey, look, you really need to put these things in place. To all intents and purposes, as far as I can tell right now, and I will come back and formally, present this at some point when I've completed the analysis, it looks like that water main was put in using those expired 2002 bonds. That's as best as I can tell. And it's not clear to me yet that there is the bonding that is supposed to be in place is somewhere in the region of $20 to $21 million, which is what we thought it would need to be. I've seen the revised spreadsheets that the county came up with, the revised formulas the county came up with as part of this disclosure. The other thing that was disclosed, which it's very strange because it was super top secret and couldn't be disclosed because it was just not worth somebody's life to disclose it, but that replacement agreement is actually part of the documents that were disclosed, the unsigned, unexecuted one. So it does give us a sense of the replacement agreement, but it does seem that there is, when you look at the disclosures that were attached to these documents that were floating around between the developer and the county, it does look like the most recent renewals that they could point to for the multiple agreements were the ones that we got a copy of, which ended in 2016. So there is a gap. That multiple agreement, because it didn't get renewed in 17, 18, 19, and 20, left the county in a position where they had no recourse against the developer without these replacement bonds in place. And certainly, as I get to the end of this analysis, I will hopefully be able to report back and confirm whether any replacement bonds were put in place. But there was a lot of, I think, discomfort at the county because they were, through Sycand, going back to the developer and saying, hey, look, we're taking a lot of flack from the Agua Dulce Town Council about this. You guys need to step up to the plate and put these damn bonds in place, because we are not going to do this dance much longer on your behalf until you fix this. And I don't have the answer yet as to whether that has been fixed or not. But there's certainly no, as I understand it right now, there's no, beyond the basic grading permit that's out there, there's no civil infrastructure that's going on the first phase of the project. And what you do see is the former project manager for RTG, who's stepped down or got the axe in about June or July, he's going to the county or going to Sycand and say, hey, look, we put the water line in, can you release us from needing to go and get that bonding for that water line? And I don't think the county was, District 37 was prepared to play that game with them. So, watch this space. We'll come back with some definitive information, but it certainly supports, I think, the concerns that we had as a community that we expressed to the county a few months ago.
Great. Anybody have any questions for Chris? Thank you for the report. We appreciate it.
Hey, Chris, do you know what the zoning is on that 54-acre property next to RTG?
I think it's like A1, A2, I think, at the moment. The county can move forward and engage with them and have a discussion about whether they can build this nursery or not.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Thank you for the report, Chris. We appreciate it. Next up, we have a report about the Battery Energy Storage Systems, otherwise known as the BESS. Apostrophe S. Anybody have any anything to update or any information to add to what we have already been told?
Chris, did you want to talk about the report? You know, we talked about it in the administrative portion of the meeting, but if you wanted to talk about that in the community meeting?
Yeah, I'm happy to recap that. I mean, the essence of what the community, predominantly in Acton, because it's in their backyard, have raised with the county has been two things. One is the concern about thermal runaway with the batteries, and also the impact of that in terms of the release of toxic gases and the impact on the groundwater supply. So the Board of Supervisors, when this first became an issue that was raised by Acton, instructed county staff to go away and produce a report that dealt with some of the issues. And glaringly, the report that came back from the county dealt with everything other than the issues that were being raised by the community, which is the public safety aspect of this. It's got lots of pretty graphs and pictures in it. But it really doesn't address the crux of the issues that were raised by the Acton community. Clearly, the Acton community has put together a privately funded vehicle which is now litigating this with the county. But the report itself, I think, is I mean, frankly, a waste of time and energy, because it doesn't deal with the issues that the community was raising with the county.
Anybody else have anything to add? If not, thanks again, Chris. We're going to move on to the President's Report, which, general, in an effort to be most inclusive with meeting participation, the Council will continue with virtual meetings and have an in-person hybrid meeting once every quarter. Those in-person hybrid meetings will be March, June, September, and upcoming December.
Can I ask whether there is any point in doing a hybrid meeting for December? If we're not going to conduct any business, shouldn't we just do an in-person meeting instead of trying to Zoom the call out, Zoom the meeting as well?
Sounds good to me. Although, if there's any, a lot of times we'll open it up if somebody wants a report, and if they
in person only rather than hybrid. But what is the rest of the council? What's the opinion on that from the rest?
I agree that it should just be in person.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't hear much.
Nope.
I think we ought to take
I was going to say, I think in person is probably the best.
Okay. All right. So that's 5-4, none against. I would entertain a motion if someone wants to make a motion that we just have an in-person meeting only for December. Someone want to make a motion to that effect?
Motion that it's just in person.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pretty quiet out there. All right, so that's it. That motion carries. Good.
Thank you, Chris.
So, incoming correspondence for action. We have the response from the regional planning staff to the email, which we've already discussed with Stephanie, and I will send her the comments or the letter that we received, so she's got a copy of it, what our feeling is. SCE response to the June 2022 outage. It's been about 16 months now. And,
Well, okay, I need to apologize on that because I got in contact with Rochelle Silsby, and she said, I replied to that. And I said, okay, send me a copy of it. And she did.
Yeah.
And I think it was just something that came through the webmail, and the beginning part of the response was to Jackie at the Acton Town Council.
Right.
I had read the whole email. The second part was a response for the Agua Dulce Town Council. So I forwarded that, but I needed to check with Chris to see if all of the concerns that he had expressed in the letter were addressed.
You know, I think Jackie, when you read Jackie's letter to Edison, which was part of that exchange, hit the nail on the head in as much as there was a very circumspect answer that we got back. We'll take your feedback and we'll feed it in and we'll do this, that, and the other. And I'm not entirely convinced that actually got done. And Jackie, one of the points Jackie made in her letter to them was that if they don't acknowledge there was an outage, they don't have to report what happened with the outage to the Public Utilities Commission. And I think that we may wish to consider just dropping a public records request into the California Public Utilities Commission for the report that Edison produced for the outage in June of last year, just to see what they actually said about it. Because I tend to sit in the camp that Jackie's in, and I'd actually like to see what they said really happened to the Public Utilities Commission around that outage that we all experienced, because it wasn't small, it wasn't minor, and their response to it was chaotic at best. So I think if the council wants to have a quick discussion about it, I'm quite happy to figure out how to put a public records request into the CPUC and see what the CPUC comes back with that says this is what happened and this is what Edison reported to us. We don't have to get that from Edison, it comes from the CPUC.
I would be surprised if Jackie hasn't already done that. I mean, it seems to me that wouldn't that be her first move after she received the letter?
Not really, no. I mean, if Jackie felt satisfied, I mean, it really depends what else was on Jackie's plate at the time.
Yeah, true.
Because there are much more significant things that both our respective councils have been dealing with beyond, whether Edison's being truthful in why they cut the power on and what they did about it. So I don't think we can presume that she would have done anything with that.
Well, can you follow up with that, Chris, and see what?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, great. Let's find out. Can't say anything until we find out what actually took what occurred.
Yeah, and I just don't think we're going to get a straight answer from Edison.
No, that happens. All right, so public hearing, community meetings, workshops. We have the Action Plan Regional Planning Commission public hearing, which is going to be held November 15th. It's the overview of the structure and function of the draft 2045 CAP, which we've been visited a couple times in regards to that particular draft. And the revised draft 2045 CAP identifies strategies, measures, and actions to mitigate emissions from community activities, which may include some municipal operations. And for details, you can go on the website there. It's found in our agenda. Other item is multi-family residential parking ordinance, Regional Planning Commission public hearing, which is going to be held November 29th at 9 a.m. and it's down in Figueroa Street, first floor auditorium in Los Angeles. And it's also going to be online. So to find out more about that, you can go to our link that we have posted there in our agenda. So those are the only items we have. The incoming correspondence for notice. We did receive a thank you reply from Sheriff Luna for condolences sent following the tragic loss of Deputy Clinkenbroomer. For some reason, I have a hard time with that name. But obviously, it was tragic. And, regional plans that have been filed that we've been made aware of. It's 13025 Sierra Highway, new accessory dwelling unit, legalize unpermitted storage, and retaining wall, demolish unpermitted storage. Certificate of compliance that's needed. Pre-application counseling request for recreational building and sleeping quarters for up to 22 youth and staff and a commercial kitchen. That's up on Tasha Trail, which, if I'm not mistaken, is off of Hierba, which is off, it's like going up toward Boiling Point on the left-hand side up against the hill there.
That is correct. That's in my backyard.
That's in Mary's backyard. Yeah, you got an update on that one, Mary?
I actually do, because I there's been rumors going around that this was going to be a group home.
Yeah.
And I knew once I saw 22 youth that jumped it out of the youth home category. So I sent an email just directly myself for my own verification, and said, hey, group home, 7 or more persons needs to have a conditional use permit. And the reply that I got was, this submittal is for a pre-application counseling request and will be assigned to a planner shortly. As the review process, the planner will conduct review to confirm the requested use, as it's unclear if the proposed use is for a residential care facility or for some kind of retreat youth group. And we will advise the applicant regarding the required land use approval accordingly. And FYI, a retreat youth group is a permitted use on A2 property.
Huh? On A2?
Yeah.
Not A1? Okay.
A2.
Okay. Wow. Okay. But it's still, if I'm not mistaken, it's still 6 or under does not require a conditional use, but you're saying, and 7 or more, but because
it's not going to be a group home, it's going to be a youth camp. It's probably going to be a youth camp.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
but you don't know until they have their pre-counseling hearing.
Yeah, but there needs to be some paved roads back there if that's going to be happening.
Yeah, I agree there.
22 youth coming in and out, and they've already dropped a food truck out there, so that's on my call next week to zoning enforcement to get that looked at, because that's storage on vacant land.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the concern is once it starts, it's like a cancer.
Yep.
And you end up with all these little tent dwellings.
Yeah.
Another submitting site plan for review and grading. This is all found on our agenda if anybody's concerned about it. The one that was concerning, which we wrote the letter about, was legalized 2 storage sheds, 1 outhouse, 2 open pergola structures, and 1 attached pergola structure on the property. And so that's the concern, because that's classified as vacant land with no home whatsoever, and it looks to me like no intention to build a home. Clarence COC application for an unconditional certificate of compliance, and on a wagon wheel yard modification on Wagon Wheel Road, and a single family residence and a certificate of exception convert to a certificate of compliance for new 1-story single family residence on that particular parcel. So that brings us to number 16 on our agenda here, which is open forum. And at this point, anybody who has something to share with the community that's community oriented, that feels that we all need to hear about it, we will give them 3 minutes to do that sharing. Looks like I have Cindy Grimes has her hand up. Yes, Cindy, the 3 minutes starts as soon as you start talking.
Thank you, Don.
Yes.
It's actually for Deputy Martinez, and pardon me for sounding very frank or deliberate, but when we talk about that party house that's going on, you know, we live not close to it, but I just want to find out, is there something that the community can do to create where we have a response from the Sheriff's Department to come out when we're calling for that? Cliff and I don't live close to that party house, but we hear it. And we just put ourselves in the position of the people who are around that or the next door neighbors. And we would lose our shit, pardon the expression. That is so loud and unbelievably out of control until so many hours of the night that I just would love to be able to hear from the Sheriff's Department on what we can do, because I would hate for some violence to really go down at that place.
Yeah.
So, like I mentioned earlier, you need to call. So one of the things that happened, the Board of Supervisors reached out, Stephanie reached out to me to talk to some of the people that reached out to them. And when we ran the calls for service, this has been going on for, I guess, the last couple of months, we had a single call to the Sheriff's Department. So part of it is we don't know what's not going on. I mean, like, we're not there. You guys are the ones that are our first, point of contact there that have to call. And as I've mentioned in other meetings, right now the Department of Justice review that we're under, we have to advise of a delay. The other day, I guess they were advised of the delay and decided not to put in a call for service, and I was literally down the street. I was working overtime, and I looked at the email, I looked at the time that she called the Sheriff's Department. Don't get discouraged. They're going to tell you 3 to 4 hours response because they have to. I had no calls in my buffer, and I was 5 minutes away. Like, don't worry about that. Just ask for the incident number and actually call. That's what's going to solve the problem. With Gardens of Paradise, there's still a court order in place. If they do anything, they're in violation of it, and we can take action. The only way we can get the ball rolling on this, get county council involved if we need to, or deter them, is to start actually contacting them. And that comes with calls for service. And we can't justify, like, getting other agencies, regional planning, them out there on 9 to 5 hours or whatever their normal work schedule is if there's no calls there. Like, if there was like hundreds of calls, it'd be like, hey, you guys need to do a special operation just like we do like Gardens of Paradise. We need to come out there. You guys need to witness it. We coordinate all that versus like we've had a call in 2 months,
So number one, what you're saying is numerous calls benefits the homeowners here rather than the partiers that are just using the area for the weekend. So,
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's fair enough. I mean, that's, and that's something where it's up to those that are concerned, that are affected by it. They need to group together and say, hey, have you called yet? And if you haven't called, then the call's got to be made. I think a lot of times, Orlando, what happens is, because I live up there behind Valero gas station, Pepper Tree Market.
Yeah.
I can hear it, and so it's something where I don't know where the action's happening, but I know I'm affected. my dogs sometimes won't even go outside because the noise is so loud. So, that being the case, and Agua Dulce is so widespread, I know that this area on this particular home on Barber Road is probably a dead giveaway because it's all lit up. But when all of a sudden you've got this pounding noise, and I'm talking pounding, do you just call and say, yeah, there's a party going on somewhere, or do you?
Well, I mean, you can usually get a general. If you don't know the exact address, you can get a general direction, right? You could be like, hey, it looks like it's coming from, First and Second Street or whatever,
Right.
and that's enough for us to at least get there. And then, like, if, like, say we're driving by and we just have a cross intersection area and we're like, oh, we see the lights, and we go there. Now we update our desk with an exact address once we find it, right? So they'll update the call, and that call will be, because we do it for officer safety. Like, we don't want them to know, like, hey, we're at this intersection. No, we're going to this house where there's a potential for an officer safety thing. We want you guys to know exactly where we're at. So we update the call with our desk before we go in. Once we verify that, oh yeah, that house is right here. That's where the issue is.
Okay, perfect. All right, so if you're affected, you need a call. Period. That's in the story.
Cindy, I think an easy way to get the word out is, because I saw a bunch of posts on social media. When you see those, or if you wanted to even start the post, say, here is 661, here's the number to this Palmdale Sheriff Station. It's it needs to be called in numerous times.
Yep.
Anybody who hears it, drop a call to the sheriff's station.
Sure. On 272-2400, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's it, Palmdale
And that
Station.
way, if you put it all out there so that it's easy for somebody to see and do,
They'll do it.
they may do it.
For the number, or whatever, they're going to just shut their door and try to go to sleep.
Yeah, so I think
I do think they get discouraged on when they hear that response time. I'm not saying that we've actually called on it, because we're not right there, but we are affected by it where we live.
Oh, yeah.
So, we put ourselves in those neighbors' shoes. But I will definitely put it out there, because it is just not fair. And if it is going to take 3 hours, it's to know that we kind of have to sit tight for it. But it just would be nice if there could be a quicker response, knowing that there's so many people dealing with this weekend after weekend after weekend.
And these parties, they go on for 5 or 6 hours. I mean, I was hearing sound and someone screaming on a microphone till it was at least 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
And also remember, it's not just that one house. There's a house off Anthony that's had a bunch of parties, which is closer to you, Don.
Yeah.
That's when you need to be calling.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. So I've already instructed them, like, don't do it till you've been fed up because the music's been going on for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And, I said, hey, you can shoot me a quick email too if, hey, like, they're setting up. Okay, cool. So we can get out there and get be on top of it before anything else. Plus, if they're setting up and it is an event that is like where they're charging and stuff like that, we can at least contact them at that point and really establish, like, hey, dude, you don't have a permit. Like, this is not the use for it. There's other stuff we could do versus once it's all blare and go.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. We'll do it. Anybody
Yeah, and
else?
Cindy, if you can include in what you put out there, don't be discouraged by the 3 to 4 hour wait that you may be told.
Yeah, it means nothing.
I think if people know that ahead of time, they're not going to be as frustrated about it.
Yeah. And the response, it sounds to me like the response is secondary to the numerous calls.
Correct.
So
You're absolutely correct, Don.
And otherwise, Orlando's got, how can he justify making a big deal over one call? But if there's 50 or 75 calls, hey, we got an issue. So I think it definitely will prove the point. So
Yeah, and Deputy Martinez, thanks for kind of guiding us through that.
yeah, appreciate that. Anybody else?
No problem.
All right, then we're going to move on to high-speed rail update. Pam Walter, if Pam's here, but I don't think she is.